Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Deal Scout. Man, I touched the wrong button. Anyways, today we're having a conversation with a guy in Canada who is absolutely doing some incredible thing on helping people become real estate investors. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Riley. Riley, welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad I figured out which button to push to hit record so we could actually create a podcast together. But Riley, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, I basically live in Toronto, Canada. And what I do day to day would be I build a real estate investing portfolio. So that's kind of my main focus. I'm a full-time real estate investor. I've been now for a little while, a few years. Alongside of that, I've recently started helping people to buy their first income property, and I've started up a whole program, and I have a lot of students, a lot of clients now that are really at the beginning stages. They're at zero properties. They're looking to buy their first in the next year, and we help them to do so. So that's been my main passion, my main focus for the past few years now, and it's been a lot of fun.
So before you bought your first property, what were you doing right before you bought your first property?
I was a business consultant, so I started up a home maintenance company, and I was at university, and then I actually started coaching other students at university how to do the same. So how they could go from really no understanding of business to successfully running their first six-figure home maintenance company. So that was my main focus there right before doing real estate.
Got it. So talk to us about your first real estate purchase because you help other people buy real estate. So I want to know about, how did your first one go?
Well, that's actually funny. Funny you bring it up. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now for consulting, for coaching, and helping people. Is because it took me so damn long to figure out how to buy my first one. The industry goes very deep in knowledge and information, and the education system was where they teach you chapter one at university before chapter two, and everything's in chronological order, and then chapter three builds upon chapter one and two. So it's all laid out in a very systematic and processed way. Whereas when I was trying to figure out how to learn real estate investing, it was just a scatter of information. I'm reading blogs, articles, YouTube videos, podcasts, books, going to conferences. And it took me 2.5 years of about 20 hours a week of like just full immersion. And I still hadn't bought my first property. And so, for me, I lack a lot of patience. I need things ASAP. And it was frustrating that I hadn't bought my first one yet. And it wasn't until I got super clear on three specific things that I ended up being able to buy my first one. The first thing was like, which city do I want to buy in and why? So analyzing a market. The second was, well, what type of property do I want to buy? Is it a single family, multifamily res, commercial, apartment buildings, land? And then that third kind of component was, which strategy did I want to use? Because there's a lot. There's flipping, wholesaling, burring, rent to own. So once I got those three things figured out and I was clear on it, then it was just full steam ahead. Looking back, I probably could have bought my first one in 3 or 4 months had I just learned exactly what I needed to know, than just a bunch of everything. I was mastering all of it, none of it at the same time. So
So we've
certainly not the
got,
best way to learn. But
yeah.
yeah, anyway.
So you had three things that were kind of like hurdles until until you bought your first one. The market, where do I want to buy? What do I want to buy? And then what will be my strategy in the buy of it? Out of those, what was the hardest one for you to wrap your head around?
Yeah, great question. The city actually became probably the easiest for me, for multiple different reasons, but the city wasn't that difficult to figure out. The property type as well, I was kind of conflicted. Should I buy a single family or a multifamily residential, like a 2 to 4 unit building? Um, I ended up kind of setting on just multifamily residential, so a 2 to 4 unit. Found that was the biggest bang for your buck. The strategy was the most challenging because there's a lot of different strategies. The way in which I kind of went through and figured out which strategy I wanted to learn or which one I wanted to focus on was I had a previous coach that had made the distinction between the two overwhelming categories of strategies when you're looking at real estate investing and even business in general. One strategy is more like active income, the other is wealth creation. So when you're looking at active income, that's like a 9 to 5 job, or as an entrepreneur, your 9 to 9 job, I call it. But it's what you're doing today or this week or this month to make money. It's active money. It's money that's going to be in your pocket soon. Wealth creation is more long term, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And people get rich through real estate when the market appreciates year over year, and there's a compounding effect from that happening. So that's how people get really rich and wealthy through real estate, is they hold on to things for long periods. So then I cut out all the active income strategies because I wasn't wanting to have a 9-to-5 job in real estate doing flipping or wholesaling. And that's why I gravitated towards the BRRRR strategy, because it's a type of buy and hold.
Okay. So
Yeah.
BRRRR, that's something that was made famous by, a few early real estate investors, Bigger Pockets, and a few people really latched onto the BRRRR. Why don't you kind of give us an idea what the BRRRR means in a real estate strategy?
Sure. Well, yeah, before I kind of dig into it, the overarching idea is that we can recycle money from one project to another. So you can recycle the money from the down payment and the renovation cost, call it maybe 100,000 from the one project. We can recycle that, so you can pull out all that money that you had invested initially into the next project. So that's why it's attractive to me, is I can keep my money moving. And that's the goal, for any business owner or investor, is to keep your money moving as fast as possible. So the BRRRR is actually an acronym. It's B and then 4 R's. So BRRRR. Kind of simply put, you buy it for a discounted rate. So you're going to buy it a bit cheaper than fair market value. Usually because a lot of the money is made on the buy. So you want to buy it a bit more discounted. Usually it's a distressed property that needs some TLC. It needs a bit of love. And then after you buy it, then you're going to renovate it. So you're going to go in there and do what we call strategic renovations that actually add value to the property. And the goal is maybe you're spending 50 grand on the reno, but the property's value increases 75 to even 100 grand. Versus the inverse of that, which I hear time and time again, which doesn't go so well. People spend 100 on the reno, but the property's value goes up 25,000, and then they just magically lost 75K for the reno. So you don't want to do that. Not all costs for the reno actually increase the property's value. So there's a trick to that. There's certainly an art, but once you get really good at the reno, then that's where you're going. Then the next star is for the renting of the unit. So now you're going to rent that unit for fair market rents, ideally more than the property was probably rented for when you had bought it. So after you rent it, then you can go to the banks and you can say, hey, banks, we bought the property. It was in this condition and the rents were at this amount. And now it's way better. Now it's operating twice as good or 3 times as good. Rents have tripled. The property's condition is much, much better. So now the banks will actually refinance out your money. Once you get that refinance check, that's going to cover the cost of your down payment and your renovation amount. You can go and spend that. And the repeat is the last R. You can go and reinvest it into the next project.
And that's what you call recycling money and keeping your money moving. Right. Now there's a you said, and there's a trick to doing this, or an art to doing this, or some topics to do this, right? So how to make sure your renovation money actually produces a result for you rather than just in your example, losing 75K. What are some things that you found when investing money into a rehab? What should you do and what should you not do? Obviously, you should not lose money, but give us some ideas on why and how.
Well, yeah, there's a few easier items that we can kind of pick at. I find bathrooms, like spending money on the bathrooms, if you're going to replace the vanity, do like a nice tile tub surround, you're going to put in really nice light fixtures in the bathroom and faucets, like the hardware. The bathroom's like your money makers. And so if you can renovate that bathroom, make it look nice alongside of the kitchen. So I like to have like a backsplash in the kitchen with subway tiles. You can do that. You don't have to do new appliances if you're burring, but like a nice countertop. It doesn't have to be granite or marble, but a nice kind of even laminate countertop that looks marble would be a nice touch. If there were one major expense that I'd spend money on, it would be a kitchen. So $5,000 to $10,000 brand new kitchen. I find that adds a lot of value to the property. Well, those are the two main things. So if I were to choose 2 items to spend money on in my reno, it would be number 1, the bathroom, number 2, the kitchen. Outside of that, it would be a fresh coat of paint, and it would be the floors. That's what we call a superficial renovation. So it's very easy. It's a cosmetic reno, not like what we call a full gut, which is you're going to take out all the drywall or the plaster walls and do all the maybe electrical over or the plumbing over. That tends to be a bit more extensive. So for a beginner, I always recommend you stay away from anything structural or foundational because it can be a money grab. It can get very, very costly extremely quick.
So there's, structural and such like that, like, oh, maybe we should open up this wall or open up this kitchen or open up this, right? So that maybe as a beginner, maybe steer away from that, because you help first time, people who are like, hey, I want to get into real estate investing. Let's start here. So what other first time mistakes have you seen or have you done, that people, first time investors, should avoid?
Yeah, really good question. There's a lot out there. So I always tell people when they're beginning and they're starting off on their journey, where you are right now, being at zero properties and really not having the experience yet of going through the whole process, to actually successfully buying your first one, having it run profitable, and also ideally like semi-passive. Like there's a lot going on there. And there's going to be landmines. That's what I call them, as landmines between where you are right now and where you want to go being your first one. And if you hit one of these things, it can be extremely costly or a lot of pain. And I've heard a lot of my kind of friends or acquaintances, people I've known that have hit these landmines. And they tend to be a few different things. The first is that, right off the buy there, they're overspending. So right now in the market all across North America, prices are at an all-time high in a lot of the markets. And because of that, it's one of the more risky times to buy on-market properties, because you're most likely going to be in somewhat of a bidding war, and the chances of you overspending for that project or that property are much, much higher. So I do steer people away from buying on market. Ideally, buying off market directly from the seller would be the most ideal. You can save realtor commissions, and you can kind of communicate with that seller much easier when it comes to the negotiation, and finding a kind of a good win-win. So that's the number one thing, is just overspending on the buy. The
Yeah.
second is, we already mentioned it, overspending on the reno. Tends to be the next biggest thing. People just don't know what to renovate, what not to renovate, and you overspend on that renovation and you don't actually add value to the project. The goal is that every dollar that you spend equals $1.50 out. But if you're spending $1 and you're only increasing the value of the property by 50 cents, that's not what you're going for.
Yeah.
Just to
Uh,
stumble across, and people kind of underestimate it. People underestimate this third thing. Can you hear me?
yeah, you just froze
I
for a
think it cut
second. All
out.
right. Repeat that third thing again.
The third one would be property management. And usually people are really obsessed around, okay, I get it. I need to buy it a bit cheaper than market value. And renovation, okay, I got that one. But property management, re-renting to tenants. I did property management for a few years before buying properties as well. And there's a lot to it. It's not easy to really know how to do your HR in your business, how to find high quality tenants, vet them, screen them, place them. And usually what ends up happening is, even if you buy it for cheap, you renovate it for cheap, all the numbers make sense. If you can't get a really killer tenant in there, being your client technically, and they're in there, they don't pay rent maybe, or they disturb the well-being of the others in the building, or they destroy the unit, that's where, those are usually the landlords that I buy from. These disgruntled landlords that have had a terrible experience and they want to get out of property management and out of real estate, because they just haven't understood how to properly do that re-rental process.
Yeah.
So those are the top three things I'd say.
So you say, one of the challenges right now this is recording in 2021 in October, and we're looking at, the challenge, because the market is, really hot right now. Prices are through the roof, and you say that's a challenge. So you like to find properties that are off market. Now, as you're coaching a student, what are some ways to find off market properties that you found successful for new, first time real estate investors?
Sure. It's kind of the secret sauce. It's not something that's probably easily conveyed here over a podcast, but there tends to be a few methods that are more saturated.
Mm-hmm.
They're easier to understand, and I think that's probably why they're quite saturated, because everyone just does it because it's easy. But because it's easy, it's also very ineffective. One is just plain and simply door knocking. You can do that. I've had students that have done that in the past, and they made it okay, but it's a lot of time, a lot of work. The second would be just a mass mailer campaign, where you're maybe sending out 30 to 100,000 flyers to an area and just blanketing a whole subdivision with flyers to just hopefully get a few phone calls. That can work again, but it tends to be, especially right now in the market that we're in, very saturated. Everyone's kind of doing it. There's 3 different lead generation methods that we use that are a bit different, unorthodox. Each of them have about 12 steps roughly. And so they're a bit more complex, but certainly whenever I'm working with a client or a student of mine, like that's the main thing that we do, is we just go through the motions, teach them these 3 lead gen methods. And the goal is to ultimately bring in at least 10 to maybe 15 leads every single month. And out of those, they might put in 2 to 3 offers and get one accepted.
Okay. So you bought your first property. It took you a few years where, looking back, you said, if I would have figured these few things out, and this is why I coach. So you have your own portfolio of real estate that you guys have. Give me an idea of what your holding company looks like and how you structure it. And maybe you could give some advice to other, new real estate investors. And then why did you decide to start coaching? What did that look like as you built that out?
Well, yeah, I guess the corporate structure would be, and I'm not an accountant, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not able to give the advice here fully, but I'll just give my opinion. When it comes to like the corporate structure, I tend to have a holding company, and then you have two kind of subcategory corporations. One would be my consulting corp, and then the other would be my investment corp. My strategy has been like every 5 purchases, so every 5 properties that we buy, we'll start up a brand new corp, just to kind of divert that liability a bit more. So each corp kind of holds 5 properties, and then we start up a brand new corp. So Corp A might hold 5 properties, and then once we have 5, then we'll start up Corp B, which will own another 5, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's kind of the structure that we use. And then whenever we're doing a refi, or if there's cash flow coming in from the properties within that corp, we'll just kind of transfer the money up into the hold co to protect it a bit more. What was your other question there, Josh?
Yeah. So you started buying, and you guys are using the BRRRR method, and you found your market, your property, your strategy, right? So you're going in, you got your system now, you start building this out, you've learned a bunch of stuff. And then one day you decide, hey, I should coach other people on how to do this. Like, what did that look like? How did you evolve into a real estate coach?
Well, yeah, like I mentioned previously, before doing this, I was a consultant for business owners, and I really, really enjoyed doing that. And then I did that for 5 years, where I was like just coaching and helping university students to start up their first home maintenance company, buying properties. And it's fun. Like, I do enjoy that, but I don't jump out of bed in the morning excited to buy bricks and mortar and drywall and paint. It's not something that checks all the boxes for me. So there comes a point where you're like, do I really need to buy that next property? Like, is that really something that's going to fire me up and change my life? And it really wasn't. There came a point where it just wasn't really doing it for me. And then I thought, like, okay, well, how could I add value to the others that are reaching out and helping them to buy a property? And I had, at this point, like a good amount purchased for properties, and friends and family had been reaching out and saying, hey, I see what you're doing. I'd like to kind of learn as well. What's the trick? How do I buy my first property? And I didn't really have like a canned answer. I couldn't just give them a 5-minute spiel and say, there you go, good luck. Yeah. There's a lot more to it. Like there would be for anything that takes a bit more skill. So naturally I was like, okay, well, maybe there's a demand here. Maybe, people really want to buy their first one. And I remembered going back to when I was learning, going to conferences, events, and there'd be occasionally a speaker on stage that would ask the group, like, who here owns a property? And geez, it blew my mind, but less than 10% would raise their hands out of a group of a few hundred. And then they'd ask, oh, who here owns one, and who owns 5 or 10. And it became obvious that people went from 1 to 5 to 10 very quickly, and they rarely stayed at 1. But a lot of people were locked at 0. Mm-hmm. And so there was a huge demand to help people go from 0 to 1. And once they got to 1, they were unleashed. So that's why I set out to like create a mission here to help 1,000 people to buy their first income property. And we're up to a few hundred now. So we're doing quite well. And I think we'll get there within the next year or two, I would say. But yeah, that's really been the evolution. Through my own experience too, it took me forever to buy my first one. And I realized, looking back, probably could have taken me 3 to 4 months. Had I just had a program like this, or something that could have helped me accelerate my journey.
Yeah. So what is the sticking point that most people like have a hard time getting that first, property? Like, you've coached over 100 people so far. Like, what's that first sticking point that most people have to get over?
Financing. The overwhelming majority, I'd say 80+% would be stuck at financing. A lot of them tend to be in debt from university or college. So the banks will look at them for mortgages. They might not have a ton of money saved up. And I didn't either. When I bought my first one, I had very little saved, didn't have any mortgage capability. And so the question for me was, how the heck am I going to buy my first one? I don't want to sit in the penalty box for another 2-3 years to wait to get this mortgage. And then I realized that joint venturing, where I could kind of use my expertise and everything I'd learned to operate the business, could be also saw as valuable in the marketplace. And if someone had a mortgage, they had some money sitting around, but they just didn't have that expertise or time available, that I could actually be of value to them. So we started partnering. And so now I buy 10 to 15 properties a year using joint venturing. The banks won't give me personally 15 mortgages a year. That'd be crazy. But my mantra is I'd rather own half a watermelon than an entire grape. Yeah. So I'd rather buy 15 properties a year and own 50% of them without my money or my own mortgages put in than to own one property a year and own 100% of them.
Very cool. Yeah. So with a joint venture, what are some good and bad, results of a joint venture? Like what's a good way to look at a partner and go, hey, I'll go into a deal with you and have this property. So through your training, what do you look for a good JV or a bad JV?
Really good question. And I think even outside of just real estate as a whole, joint venturing can go multiple different ways when you're looking at partnering and running a business. I've ran a few businesses where I've had partners, and there is an act to it. There's certainly an art, and there's going to be some trial and error. So just knowing that, setting off, I think is very important. But my system that I coach and that I help students with is kind of 3 different pillars. First, it goes that you have to know these people. So, how do we get to know people? Usually it takes 3 to 4 conversations naturally. So I coach them to have different meetings. So 3 to 4 different meetings that run about a half an hour long, whether that's in person, over Zoom, a phone call. Ideally it's in person, if not over Zoom, something of that nature, but you need to get to know these people. And after you know them, then you have to like them. So I actually have something called the beer test, where I wouldn't go into business with someone if I wouldn't want to sit down and actually just grab a beer with them. Whether it's a beer or it could be a coffee or water, whatever. Yeah. But you know what I mean? So the like, I think, is very important, because you're going into business with these people for, minimum 5 years, ideally. I think we cut out here. And I wouldn't want to go into business with someone that I didn't like. But the last one is a bit more challenging, and it does take a bit more time. And this is kind of the trick, where you have to get to understand, what does it take for you to trust someone? So the third thing is trust. So you have to know, like, and trust. And, that trust can be difficult to gain for a lot of people. Some people are, it takes them a little bit longer to get to trust someone. But if it takes a bit longer, then that's okay. For each of you, I'd say that are listening, thinking about doing a joint venturing, you have to really dissect what it means to trust someone for you, and then have kind of a checklist there. So to each person, it might be a bit different, but you really need to understand what it takes for you to trust someone. Sometimes it's just a gut instinct. It's more emotional for some people. Other people, it's more analytical. But either way, you really have to dissect what it takes for you to trust someone. Once you figure out these 3 things, then you're ready to kind of open up your funnel, have people come through that want to partner with you. And then throughout these meetings, the whole goal is that you get to know them, like them, and trust them. Once that's accomplished, then you can set really good expectations with them around how the business will work, and you can sign an agreement and jump in.
Do you teach people, kind of walk them through the process in your coaching program? Give us an idea of what your coaching program looks like. What's it take? Because you want to do 1,000, you've done over 150 so far. So you guys are well on your way to do that. What does your coaching program look like?
Well, we like to break it down into 2 different components. I did some coaching programs and mentorship when I was trying to figure out to buy my first. And so through that experience, I kind of got to learn, what do I like about these programs? What do I not like? How do I want to actually set this thing up and help people? Something that I found that I didn't enjoy that much when I did programs was a lot of them just gave a lot of information, which is fair. That's kind of what you're paying for. And we do that as well. So when I'm helping my students in my program, we give some information. It's a lot of information, 45 hours of content, Q&A calls for, the first 8 weeks to 2 months, and then exercises, homework, whatnot. So yes, we will tell you a lot of information. But then what I found that I didn't like so much with coaching programs that I had done, at least, was that they give you the information and then just kind of pat you on the back lightly and say, good luck, good luck applying this, good luck getting the result. Whereas I found when I was coaching my university students way back in the day, that just didn't work. If I just gave information, taught the systems, and just set them free to run their home maintenance company, they wouldn't get the result that they were looking for. So you need accountability. You need someone there to kind of show you, not just tell you. So that's what I like to do. And the second half of my program is showing them. So if that's jumping on a Zoom call, doing screen sharing, like analyzing properties live, I feel like that's what you need. Is someone there to actually like be the judge of your work and make sure that they're holding you to a higher standard. So I like to kind of hold people's hand through the process, not just give them the information and send them on their way. So,
got it. So you teach them how to do it, and then you're available at second phase to walk them through a deal or something to help people get to buy their first one. Right? How long does it typically take someone to go through and buy their first property with you guys?
Sure. We give them a kind of a runway of 5 months. I find if we just leave it open-ended when we say we're going to help you buy your first, then it's never going to happen. So we need to set like a really good goal where it's a finite thing. And so we like to have a 5-month runway. So the first 8 weeks would be where we're going to tell you a lot of information. You're going to study it, soak it all in, learn the systems and the processes. And then the latter 12 weeks would be where you're actually starting to take massive action. You want to apply it, have us hold you accountable, show you, not just tell you. So that by the end of the 20 weeks, the 5 months, you actually own your first property. I do kind of put in there, hey, life happens. Like maybe you're going to take a vacation and a few weeks off here, a few weeks off there. Maybe you can't set aside a full 20 weeks to be fully dedicated. And that's okay. We get that. So we'll just kind of continue working with them into the 6th, 7th, 8th month if we need to. But we like to set that kind of timeline of at least 5 months if we can.
Well, give me a success story of one of the, people that have gone through your program, or, someone who's like, hey, I know nothing and, I'm transformed and now I'm good. Like, give me an idea of a story that stands out in your mind.
Sure. Of course. There was this one student that I just cracked open the book of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but by Robert Kiyosaki. It's kind of the gateway drug into all this madness for a lot of people. Yeah. So he had just read that book and he's like, hey, I know I want to buy properties, but I'm not sure at all how this thing works. So he hadn't spent any time yet researching it or understanding real estate investing outside of that book. So he couldn't have been any more of a beginner. Didn't have friends or family, anyone in the industry that knew about real estate investing. So had no one else to lean on. I was kind of his only support, which is fine. He didn't have any money either. So very little money saved up and no mortgage capability. And he was in his early 20s. He was like 22. With that being said, he actually took out a student line of credit to pay for the program to work with us, which is, that just shows his dedication. Like he was like, I need to get this thing. I know I do. I want to set myself up for retirement by the age of 30. So just a profound young 22-year-old, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So we started working together and he was just fully immersed 15 hours a week. My minimum to do the program is 5 hours a week, because if you're not putting in at least 5 hours, we just can't really help you. So he tripled down and he put in 15 hours a week and really dedicated himself, was open-minded, willing to learn, and went through the program by the very end of month number 3. So we had just finished the content after 8 weeks. And then about 4 weeks later, he had put in 4 offers. He had already found a few joint venture money partners, people that had money, complete strangers. He had never even spoke to these people. They weren't anyone that he already had known, liked, and trust. Because if you're connecting with friends or family, people that you already know, like, and trust, it's easier to partner with them. But he was reaching out to complete strangers. And
wow.
Yeah, a few people had been interested. He found a few great deals. And then it's just a matter of marrying the two together, both the partner and the deal. So he did that. And within 3 months, he bought one. And it was a 2-unit building. It was cash flowing about $500 a month, which is pretty good here in Ontario for a duplex. And then 2 months later, he had that other JV partner found another deal and bought a triplex, which was cash flowing just over $1,000, which was phenomenal. So he within the 5 months, he had bought 2 properties. And again, for us, that's like the poster child right now, because he did a great job.
Yeah.
At it. So.
Yeah, that's incredible. All right. So what's the future? So you want to, walk 1,000 people to buy their first real estate investment property. You're at about 150 now. What's the future look like for you? So you and I are hanging out, and I come visit you and some of my family in Canada. We're hanging out. We just celebrated the 1,000th person going through your program and buying their first property. What's next?
It's a really good question. You know what? Like these I find difficult to answer, because you don't really know. Like 5 years ago, I would have never have imagined that I'm doing this right now. So I'm kind of looking at the horizon being that 1,000 people. And after 1,000, maybe it's, oh, we have to get to 10,000 now, or who knows what it would be. But in speculation, just to kind of answer your question, I would say I've always wanted to get into renewable energy. And funny enough, that's actually one of the reasons why I ended up buying my first property, was because I went to the bank to get a loan for a hydraulic drill. When I was there, they said, "Hey, okay, what assets do you own? What liability do you have?" I had a $2,000 Equinox, like Chevrolet Equinox. So that was the only thing I owned that was quote unquote an asset in the bank's eyes. And so they kind of laughed me out of the bank. I left frustrated, but I was really eager then to learn what are assets. And I realized that stocks aren't really assets. You need to have tangible assets, which is what led me on the journey again of real estate investing. So, I've bought enough now that I'd like to say that I think the bank would give me that loan for the drill that I'd need to run my, geothermal company. I'd like to get it inevitably into renewable energy. I think that that's where my passion lies outside of real estate, whether it's solar panel or geothermal. Yeah, I'd like to do that in 5 years from now, I would say. So if we hit 1,000 people in the next couple of years, then I'd like to do that maybe alongside of continuing with the program and helping students.
Okay, right on. Where could people go to learn more about you, your program, maybe do a deal with you?
Yeah, I have a website, so feel free to connect there on the website. You can set up a quick 15-minute phone call. So that would be at RileyOickle.com. So just my first, my last name.com.
Okay, very good. What questions should I have asked you during this interview that I completely missed the mark on?
What questions? Oh, I don't know. I guess you did a great job. I really enjoyed this conversation. I can't think of anything right now. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So one final question. As you're looking through all the resources, you mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad, so you're not allowed to use that one again. Okay. People going through your program and you're like, you got to read this book or watch this video or do this training. There's one external resource that you could point people to, and it's not Rich Dad Poor Dad. What is that? What's that next book that they got to read or video or training program?
Sure. Well, funny enough, we are on the Deal Scout, and this book, I think we.
Oh, you lost you. Okay.
Yeah. So we are on the Deal Scout. So I was just going to say, we're on the Deal Scope podcast, and this kind of aligns with that as well. And it is one of the prerequisite books that I make mandatory. It's a requirement for any of the students that are doing the program. And it's a book that kind of defines what a real estate transaction is. And for me, it really opened up my eyes at the beginning into what's possible if you can put these three things together to create like that transaction. So the book is called Money, People, Deal, and it's by Stefan Arnio. And so, yeah, the whole idea there is that if you can find the deal, if you can find a really great property, the money to fund that project or that property, and the people to put it together, those will naturally come to you if you can find the deal. So, that would be my one book that I'd recommend.
Very good. And that's by Stefan. What's the last name?
His last name is Arnio. So Aarino.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Riley, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate you sharing all those links that you've mentioned on here. We'll include in the show notes. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you're driving around, Canada, and you're looking to get your first real estate property, and you're stuck in analysis paralysis, head on over to those links by Riley, and maybe find a way to do a deal with him. Maybe buy your first income property, and we'll go from there. If you're working on a specific deal, want to find a deal, or want to talk about the deal on the Deal Scout, head on over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, and maybe get you guys on the show next. Riley, thanks for being on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, talk to you all on the next episode.